were concerns that government may not be able to secure enough votes to pass the budget, given the low attendance, especially on the side of the majority, that characterized the debate on the budget. But the whips got to work, and the last day of debate, there were enough MPs on the floor. Prior to the vote, Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu concluded the debate for the minority, castigating President Akufo-Addo and his embattled Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, who he accused of mismanaging the economy.
To say that our country, Ghana, is in crisis, an economic crisis, a deep crisis, is an understatement. President Nana Addo Dankwa must gather courage and take full responsibility. 2.5% increase. And Mr. Speaker, without going further, we in the NDC minority group will fiercely resist and fight the imposition of this additional tax on Ghanaians.
The majority leader, Osei Chairman Sabonsu, fought back.
So the 2.5% increase in the VAT, you have been told, primarily is going to be used for road construction. If you don't want your roads to be constructed, tell us.
It was now time for a vote.
At the conclusion of the debate, as many as are in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against, say no.
And it appeared the first vote did not convince the speaker. The question was put again, and this time the majority had it, according to the Speaker of Parliament.
Honorable members, I put the question again. Those in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The House has accordingly approved the budget statement and economic policy of the government for the year ending 31st December 2023.
With the budget statement and economic policy having now been passed by Parliament, it is expected that the various committees will now get to work in considering the estimates that have been made to the various ministries, departments, and agencies. From next week, these committees of Parliament will be expected to present their report on this work that they've done on the various MDAs and recommend the approval. So this is done, the Appropriation Act will now be passed before Parliament goes on break on the 21st of December. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
And in studio here, I'm Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah, and this is the AM show. Joining us for a conversation on this is Murtala Mohammed, MP for Tamale Central. You should know him by now if you're a regular on the show. We are expecting Dr. Dixon Adomaku Kissi, MP for Anyaso, to when he joins us, we will continue the conversation with him. But let me just come to you, Murtala Mohammed. Good morning to you. How are you doing?
Good morning. Alhamdulillah, we can't complain. Nobody's doing well in this country. Maybe perhaps those who live within the four walls of the Flagstaff House. They may be doing.
The Jubilee House, you mean?
Yeah, the Flagstaff House.
The Jubilee House. You mean?
The Flagstaff House.
Okay. Let's delve into what happened in Parliament with the approval of the budget. There was some opposition initially. We heard your leader speaking, especially about the VAT issue. He's had reason to complain. He says, look, this government has no moral right to even attempt putting this in the budget, to talk more of passing it, because we know the Kumi Preku demonstration. We know the history behind this. And he was particularly concerned even about the number of people who died as a result of that demonstration, and says that, look, you have no right to burden the Ghanaian people more, considering the times that we are in. But we've seen the budget passed. Would you say you let those who support you down? You let your representatives down?
Good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning to your cherished viewers. And most importantly, the good people of Tamale Central. What happened yesterday was an approval of the policy statement of government. Every year, the Minister for Finance comes to Parliament to present the budget for and on behalf of the President. The budget is the conglomeration of several activities. So if you approve the policy statement, then you then look at the individual approvals. There are items in the budget which, some of them, if they are laws, such as tax laws or tax regimes, they come with a bill. So we are going to be looking at those things. It is not the entire budget that we have problems with. Of course, it will be unreasonable if the NDC members of Parliament says that we have problems with the entire budget. I mean, people wouldn't even take us to be credible. We have problems with certain items in the budget. What happened yesterday is that we voted against the budget as a caucus, and the MPP members voted for, and it was the voice vote. And in the estimation of the Speaker, he felt that the yeas were more than the nays. We have problems with it, but that's the ruling of the Speaker. We could have called for a division. We decided not to call for a division because we wanted to let the people of this country understand. We have no business of frustrating government. And we don't have problems with the entire budget, but we have problems with certain items.
And what are those items?
Items are going to be taken. For example, the government put in the budget the 2.5%, VAT. Mind you, President Nanado, then candidate Nanado, in 1995, led a demonstration against the introduction of VAT. 4 people lost their lives, including a 14-year-old boy. When President Nanado became Minister for Justice and Attorney General, the family of this innocent boy demanded for justice. He did nothing. The blood of that 14-year-old would be on his hands. He had the opportunity. Now, he has become a president for one term. This is his second term. Absolutely nothing. Now, if you led a demonstration against something, it means that you are against it on principle. Mind you, they are against VAT. Even when there were changes and the reduction of the VAT to about 9 to 10%, when it was brought to Parliament, they did not only speak against it, they walked out. So they were against every aspect of VAT. Yet the same person sees the need to introduce the same tax regime. What is worrying is even the times that we are in. The times we are in that everybody knows in this country, and like I told you earlier, the only group of people who may not be suffering and struggling as we are struggling, perhaps are those who live within the 4 walls of the Flagstaff House. He's a member of Parliament for the MPP. He's suffering. Everybody is suffering. If he's not suffering, he should tell your viewing public he's not. As we see today, you have, in fact, the most shameful aspects of it, an unprincipled position taken by our colleagues. You had these members of Parliament who said the Minister for Finance should either resign or be forced to jump. And even when the President indicated he wasn't going to back to their demand, they said that they were not going to participate in parliamentary proceedings if the minister was the one who was going to present it. Yet they were the loudest in the yeye.
But we know there was a meeting. We are told that the party held a meeting at Alisa Hotel where there was some deliberations. They were asked to just allow the minister to go on with the budget presentation, approval, and then the IMF negotiation center. So we know that.
It was after this meeting they threatened they were not going to sit in the chamber if the minister was going to read the budget. So the business...
No, I think...
It was after the meeting.
No.
There's been 2 meetings.
Exactly. I was going to clarify
clearly,
that.
But this is an unprincipled group of people. Now, if you tell on what basis, is it that they hated the man? Didn't they know that the reasons and the justifications given by the president was prevailing?
Can I help?
Can I finish? You would have your 10.
Good morning, by the way.
Let me just say,
I can't
by
say
Dr.
good morning.
Dixon Adomaku Kissi, MP Finance,
I can't say good morning.
who is a member of the other side.
They were the loudest in the yeye.
Okay.
And then when they were doing it, I was looking at my good friend and I said, wow, where has Principles gone?
Did you see him?
I saw him.
Okay.
He even stood and I said, oh, Principles perhaps went on sabbatical leave.
Okay.
We're waiting to see when it will.
Let me bring him in, but we'll also talk about the issue of the censure, because we need to understand what point we are at now. It appears that there's dead silence about the progress of that censure motion hearing. But let me welcome you to the program, Doc. So your friends on the other side are clearly concerned about your wavering stance on the issue of the finance minister and the budget. And he's just clearly spelled out, calling you an unprincipled group of people for not sticking to your stance.
Well, once again, thanks for this opportunity. It's always nice to, as it is, banter with him. But there's some key things we need to make Ghanaians aware of. One, times are quite tough. And we are in a very severe financial situation. Whether we want to dress it up differently or not, this is the hard fact. As to how we got here, there are many schools of thoughts. I won't belabor that.
There are no many.
But the
there
key
are just
thing,
2-3 schools of thought.
The key thing is that on our side, we had an agreement with the president, okay? And when we came out of that meeting, unfortunately, some operatives misunderstood and made some damning claims. And based on that, we said that we were going to go back to our initial stance. And then we were called sort of to order in the sense that the key person we had had an arrangement with had not spoken. And that we were basing it on, people on the periphery. So per the party's engagement with us and the Council of Elders, we decided that, okay, we need to be fair. The president had made an agreement with us. He himself had not reneged on the agreement. And as such, it was not good for us to base our change of decision on people on the periphery's comment. So we went back to where the initial arrangement was. And that was, in principle, that we agree to finish appropriation. And then the president takes his needed action.
Sorry to interject, but when the about 90 MPs took this stance, did you anticipate that the president will call you into a meeting? Did you anticipate that the president will reject your calls to have the minister sacked? Because for once, a lot of people in commentary, radio, social media, people were beginning to feel that for once we are experiencing a certain level of democracy that we see in other parts of the world, where there's almost appears to be a clear distinction between the influence of the executive and the legislature. So people felt that these are people who are representing constituents. In fact, we were told by some of the 90 MPs that our constituents are asking us to do this. And so on what basis did you agree to this arrangement? What was the point of compromise?
Now, one key thing in job relations, and let me say this very clearly, that even in big corporations, when you're firing your financial advisor, or even when you're firing your controller, there's a period of transition, and it's very important. It helps in terms of managerial.
But forgive me, but you knew about the period. You were clear that you wouldn't participate in the budget hearing or the debate thereafter if the minister didn't go. So clearly, I want to believe that these 90 MPs had a fair appreciation of how these things are done. But there was a reason.
He was one of the 90 MPs.
Yes, and there was a reason.
Admittedly. Yeah.
Yes, and there was a reason your call came with such urgency, right?
Yeah.
Because clearly you knew what the processes were, but you were so hard on your stance. So what was the point of compromise? Just quickly, so that we go back to the budget.
I think we gave some leverage to the president per his pleading, and I think in all fairness, we owe the president some respect. At the end of the day, he's the president of the nation, and in as much as we were pushing for an agenda, his bargaining was that we should just, a grace period of now as it stands, we're hoping that he takes action within the next 3 weeks. We're hoping. And if he doesn't, we still have other
Did you
tools.
go back to your constituents after you engaged the president? Your constituents and the president, who deserves the bigger respect?
Now, as it stands, let me be very clear that the decision still holds.
You still want the finance minister out?
It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. And even and let me add one key thing, that it's not about 90 or 80 or 30. It's now a majority stand. And I think the majority leader has made this categorically clear, that maybe it started off with two boys in a corner, but it's become a majority stand that we need a change in the finance ministry. And case in point, we cited two people. One is down as it stands, based on other issues, but the call still holds. And we're quiet because we are firm in our belief, and we're resolved that we are doing our bit, and we anticipate and hope that in good faith our president will also do his bit. And that is I think it's, let's cross that river and then you can judge us.
But
I really think that in conclusion, I really think that Ghanaians would appreciate us more if we hold our end of the bargain and then act differently when the president does not follow through. And I think at that point, people will come to an appreciation, because then when we take our action, and actions we will take, to a certain, we have other chips to play with. And when we do, Ghanaians will come to appreciate that, listen, these majority group made this demand, the president beckoned them, they stood down for a period, and then the president either reneged or followed through. So as it stands now, I think that, excuse me to say, if you're letting somebody go off your company, and as a matter of 6 weeks or 8 weeks, that period of transition, is allowable. I mean, even in corporate life, it happens.
Okay.
So and in corporate life, and I'll share my experience with corporate. The Fortune 500s, when they say you're going, sometimes it's 6 months. When they say you're going, sometimes it's 3 months.
I appreciate that, but I was saying that this reason you're giving after the fact, right? Didn't you anticipate? Didn't you think through that before making such an urgent demand on the president?
We also thought carefully about Ghana, and let me add.
It's a bit confusing for me.
The reason why I'm saying that is that there are timelines in terms of the constitution,
right,
when the budget has to be read, when appropriation has to be
But you knew all that.
We knew all these things. But when the president also put in his chips, I mean, listen, you don't bargain or negotiate on just one entrenched position.
Fair enough. Point well noted.
We want, at the end of the day, the best interest should be for the country.
Point well noted.
And we didn't want to hijack.
I'd like a yes or no answer to my next question.
Yeah.
Was this action to dissuade the minority from taking that censure action they wanted to? Was it just to let them believe that, the majority are making a demand, so, okay, let's hold back? Was just to dissuade them, yes or no?
No.
All right.
First and foremost, I mean, with this explanation, our colleagues from the MPP were not, or have not only acted in the most bizarre and principled way, they are behaving like zombies.
No, that's too hard.
No, they are. They are. No, they are. You listen to him. He said, listen to him. I'm just making my statement. He said that, okay, you asked him whether they didn't know what the consequences were going to be as a result of the action they took. And they said, when we met the president, we decided that we needed to give the president some reverence and we needed to allow certain things to happen. A serious representatives of the people would have weighed the pros and the cons of their action. Mind you, this was a novelty. This was an action that everybody hailed. That for the first time, you have members of parliament who have taken a decision against a minister appointed by their own government. So clearly they are unprincipled. Two, they also admitted openly that a businessman came to parliament
to try.
Hold on, they should be telling us who that businessman is. Look, aren't you interested?
We all are. We've asked, but we've never gotten a response.
The office of the special prosecutor, if he's not being a lame dog, he should be acting. Now, who sent that businessman? Did he come on his own volition? What motivated it? Was he sent by the president or the government to come plead and perhaps bribed, because they said he extended some largesse and they rejected it. Did he come to bribe the legislature in the discharge of their responsibilities given to them by the people of this country, and most importantly, their representatives? We need to be interested in this.
Definitely.
Let me finish. Another very important point. You see, he says that, oh, the president, we can't leave him in the middle of when we get to the river, we'll cross. As a matter of fact, we are drowning. We are in the deep water. We are drowning. The reasons why you asked the minister to resign or be forced to jump was because of the mess this government has created. And he being the officer in charge of leading the mess. You didn't hate him as a person.
Right.
You wanted him to go because you feel, and I have no doubt, and you feeling the way many Ghanaians felt, that look, you felt at that time, because you no longer feel that way, because if you continue to feel that way, I don't think that you should be behaving the way you behaved. You felt at that time that the mess created in this country was created by the minister. But you see, the reason why the minister is emboldened and is not willing to go, when a fish is going to rot, where does it start? Where? Is it not the head?
It depends.
No, it's the head.
It depends.
Yeah, that's a doctor saying it depends.
What doctor? Why? This one, you don't...
No, wait.
What doctor? Is fish rotting
the head is in a cold environment.
Is fish rotting to go to
but this is scientific.
It has nothing to do with doctor. That's not his field. I'm talking about a fish.
But it's still science.
No, but it's science limited to a doctor.
Please go ahead.
I'm saying that if a fish is going to rot, let me for you.
Please,
For
please.
If a fish is going to rot, it starts from the head.
Okay.
Every single decision taken by this minister, he took that decision for and on behalf of the president.
Right.
Now, if you people initially, remember last year, they were arguing that the reason why we have these problems is not by anybody, it's because of Ukraine and Russia. Now,
and COVID.
And I will come to that in a jiffy. Over 90% of you, including my good friend, says that, no, it is not Russia, it is not COVID, it is the minister. And that because that's what it means.
No,
because
you can't make that inference.
Now, if it is Russia and COVID, why are you asking someone to go? If it is Russia and COVID, why are you asking?
Combination of
finish? There has always been combination of factors.
Yeah, so don't stick one out.
Oh, then you are not being fair to the minister. If it is Russia and COVID, why are you asking someone to go? You are talking about entire cabinet. Now, the work of the ministry has linkages, Ministry of Finance, with other ministries. Now, you ask that minister to go. And I shared the same platform with one of the spokesperson, Honorable Eugene Ayin. And he made a famous statement. He said, Mr. President, you said it was the NDC members who were asking that the minister should be fired. This time round, it is we. In fact, this was what he did on this PM Express. It is we who are asking him to go. So every single crime committed by this minister, for which reason you people were asking for him to go, he committed the crimes for and on behalf of the president. And he never did anything without it being sanctioned by the president. If he did those things in isolation, then God save this country.
All right, quickly, we need to go back to the details of the 2023 budget. And let's focus on that now, redirect the conversation. So the minority says that, look, fine, it's been passed, the document has been passed, but we are kicking against some of the taxes introduced. And just before you came in, we were discussing the 2.5% increase in VAT. The issue of the e-levy, which is very interesting because if you have reduced the percentage, you're taking the cap of 100 cedis. Then the big question is, what burden have you really taken from the people anyway? So this is a government that says it agrees that times are hard, yet we are seeing some of these taxes, some increases. How does this tally with your admission that their times are hard and your bid to alleviate the difficulties that Ghanaians are facing?
You know what? There's one thing that was ringing through my mind yesterday after the budget was read. The fact that...
Passed?
Passed, sorry. The fact that, you know, in my experience outside this country, I've come to a realization that we do not support government enough. As people, we don't. And I think... yes, the citizenry might be right, and yes, government also needs to do more. The reason why I say that is that parking tickets in other parts of the world sometimes contribute even far more than revenues from the ports. And you know, if you forget about even parking tickets and look at just monies paid for parking, you know, when we say parking tickets, it's for offenses, when you park in the wrong zone. Yeah. But when we talk about, you know, paying for parking, you go to hospital and you have to park, you pay. You go to the airport, you have to park.
Like we do in our markets, KMA and AMA.
All those things. Yeah. Those revenues that we lose in this country are huge. When you add property rates or property taxes, so much is lost in this country. And in all fairness, I think that if our tax dollars are used very well and in a fashion that ordinary Ghanaians are happy with how government uses its taxes, a lot of us, a lot of the people will be more willing to give. Because when I go to some churches on Sunday, and forgive me, when I see how much people dole out to the churches and they need to pay 1 Ghana to government, the attitudes are different. And I really think that we need to admit that, you know, something is amiss. And something will be amiss, of course.
On whose side?
If
on Ghanaian.
If the average Ghanaian feels that government is not using its money properly, I think that government has to up its game and prove more to the Ghanaian people that we're very accountable, we're very transparent, and that way, if Ama or Kojo is putting into the government chest, they are very comfortable. I mean, we were here when the Canadian leader was cited for using government jet, and that he was supposed to pay for the fuel used for a trip, a family trip. And when we start making these demands on our government, when government officials are unable to, you know, do things on their own with state funds, I think a lot more people will be willing to go with government.
So people must part with something. We admit that times are hard. But the big question, which has not been answered in a very satisfying manner, is what is government also parting with? What are we seeing government cut off?
I'm with you in demanding that we show more work in terms of what we are cutting off. And listen, I have to be honest, I think that we can do more. Granted that, you know, because I clearly have said this, that, listen, there are parts of Accra in my constituency that I cannot go without a V8. I mean, there are parts of Anya, you know, Atlas. If I don't go with a V8, trust me, I cannot reach the people there. And I can even state the fact that ambulances cannot go there when somebody is sick because of the bad roads. And if you tell me that I should use my V8 only when I'm traveling outside Accra, it won't make sense to me. Likewise, the municipal chief executives or government operatives like the Ghana Health Services or Ghana Education Services, when they are going on their trips within Accra, try English and Manfum, it's not going to be possible to go without a vehicle.
So the people are justified if they complain.
That's what I'm saying, that some of these measures that we have put in place, because I'm citing the V8 because it's one of the measures we've put out that you would only use a V8 when you are leaving.
But some have called that totally unrealistic.
That is
you cannot
exactly
measure that because, Doc, if you move your car from the house, it's registered as a government vehicle. You move from the house. Who is monitoring? Who is? How are we even monitoring?
Exactly. So I don't.
So
think
it's very vague.
I don't think that is, you know, a very strong point. But I really think that we must commend government, at least in the sense that 30% pay cuts for executives. Listen, it's a fact. I mean, it is something.
How much have you generated? What are you using that money?
It's something. So, and then when you leave that, there are other things like the coupons, which we don't benefit from, but those who are taking coupons will be hit. And that, the quantum is quite huge. Now, the other thing is that, yes, we could do more. I've even asked myself that, should government machinery work 4 days in a week now? Those are also, because the lights we put on at all our various offices is energy consumption. It can reduce government expenditure. I mean, these are other questions we can explore. Shall some work Monday to Thursday and others do Tuesday to Friday? I don't know. These are all governmental avenues of doing reductions. And I really think that there are many ways of killing a cat, they say.
Oh, really?
And truly,
let's use the
truly, the government can do more. One, travels have been, put on hold, that is a strong plus.
That is not true.
It is in the,
Ajia, Qatar and Co just returned. That is not
that
true.
That is next year's budget. What are you talking
What
about?
budget?
And are you saying?
So you see, that's another thing.
And let me be clear. Listen, some of us traveled and have been traveling before we entered government. And what I mean by that is that next year, some members of parliament will be able to go out on their own trips.
And going out on their own trips.
That's my point here.
We are looking at the
You are talking about Hajia, quote unquote.
Hajia Qatar.
Qatar. And I'm making my point that there's no proof, as we say here, that she went on government ticket.
Oh, please.
And next year, if any of us should go on any of these things, and it's not on government ticket, let's not assume that every travel by an MP or Minister of State is necessarily government sponsored. And mind you, it is not just people in the executive, but government as a whole entity. Travels, trainings, and things have been, looked at, and a lot more will have to happen in country than outside. And these are all. If I tell you how much is spent on travels outside for even this year, you'll be marveled. You'll be like, wow. So this can build a whole, regional hospital.
Yeah.
So I think that we are somewhat on a right path, and I really think that, listen, whether we like it or not, we're in a very dire situation, and decisions have to be taken. And I'm with you,
Doc,
on some of your reasons, but back to the censure,
yeah.
we felt that the grounds were not solid enough. That is one thing.
Solid enough for what?
For censorship.
Okay.
And and I really think that.
Can you quickly just wrap up in 30 seconds?
The program, we are two here.
Oh, yes.
In 30 seconds,
but you spoke
please.
a lot
In 30
before.
seconds.
Oh, really?
In 30 seconds.
So in concluding,
we had barely started.
I think that we're on a right path, and we need to stay the course so that 2023 first quarter will be fantastic, and
will it be fantastic, considering our debt exchange program? The experts have been telling us the ripple effects down to the micro level. Let me bring in Mutala.
I think that on this path, come 2023 December, indices or ratings would have improved a little. A little. That is very.
Let me come to you.
On my way to this place, BBC, we have been downgraded again this morning.
Can I ask my question?
Yes.
Mutala? Okay, so we've heard from the finance minister on his debt exchange program. We've heard from the experts who are concerned, one, that there was not enough consultation. Yet again, this government has been accused of taking unilateral decisions, not involving all the stakeholders, springing surprises on people. We've heard from your deputy ranking on the finance committee who says that he will support bondholders to sue government. Once again, you're being accused of not supporting. I remember when the e-levy came, government says you pushed against it. I mean, these are hard times. This is the debt restructuring the IMF recommends for us to receive the $3 billion that we want. So why this stance? Why this decision to sue, to support people to sue government?
First and foremost, if you tell me that we should all tighten our belts, and then you went to Kantamanto and got some belts for every Ghanaian, yet you have gathered yourself at the Flagstaff House. You don't have belts, and what you even did, you remove your belt hooks, you rip them off. So there won't be any attempt to even have belt, let alone tighten those belts. You asked a fantastic question. He's saying that we should all contribute. In fact, I heard the deputy minister, my good friend Abna, who says the responsibility sharing. Now, the people who take our taxes, whose comforts are ensured by our taxes, they are unwilling to be modest. They are unwilling to even tighten their belt. They are unwilling to contribute anything. then they expect myself and you, who is already frustrated.
Oh, but there are examples. There are examples of the cut in fuel coupons. Is that not enough for you?
The least said about that, the better. When I told him about the directive of the president was not in the budget. The president gave directives that ministers of state should not travel. That was the directive given by the president. How many ministers didn't we see in Qatar? And they were taking selfies. The sad aspects of it.
Did they go on government?
For 2023?
Did they go on government?
The directive was given before this budget. Government, if the president gives directive.
This was when the president addressed the nation.
When the president gives directive today, it takes effect immediately. The president didn't.
But the president was speaking about measures to be taken.
Of course, it was as a result of the meeting they had at Peduasi, and he was reporting to the people of this country
what the measures will be.
No, that was measures they are taking. Directive of a president. Look, I have done some international relations. When the president speaks, even in the foreign policy parlance, it becomes a foreign policy of the state. The president gave directives, and it was reported again by the Minister for Information, my good friend Kudopon. He's not talking these days because he's so frustrated. It was reported by him. The president gave directives. You have ministers of state. The sad aspect of it is that those ministers were in Qatar at a time when we were considering budget for their respective ministries. Because when a budget is read, now you have the expenditure returns. That is the monies that were given to specific ministries and agencies, how they expended
So
them.
for you, even if they went on their own budgets,
I don't want to dwell on conjecture, whether they went on their own, they went on behalf of the state. I am saying that they traveled. That party boys and girls they took to Qatar at the expense of the state, millions of dollars were spent. You had the Minister for Youth and Sports, my kid brother, who says that I'll only tell you how much you spend after Qatar. Were you guys not angry about that? The people of this country need
But how do you know?
Oh, that's what he said. Look at
what I'm saying is, how do you know all your expenses?
When you are speaking, I listen to you. If you think that it was not spent by the state, tell me that Ajia Qatar spent her own money into it. Tell me. They spend state money to travel.
But who's Ajia Qatar?
You don't know who is Ajia Qatar. You are the only person in Wonderland. Now again, e-levy. And I was happy when you asked that question. The reason why the president and the government said people who were spending below 100 Ghana cedis will not pay the 1.5% was justifiable so because of people who do not have. And I remember in the spirited communication is that they're taking care of the vulnerable, the poor people. Now, does it make sense for you to reduce it from 1.5% to 1% and then open the Pandora box? Even the Kaye girl who gets just 100 Ghana cedis and sent it for the mother to buy medicine, that Kaye girl will now pay. That is why we are saying that we will not approve such a budget. 2, 80 million Ghana cedis for cathedral, President's Cathedral. This is not a national cathedral. Nobody knew what the president, the dream he had the following morning when he came with that particular promise. It was not in the MPP's manifesto. He said he made a personal pledge with his creator. So tomorrow, if the president or another president decides that he made a personal pledge with Satan, that if I'm given the mandate, this is what I'm going to do, you think that we should do that? The people of this country, and Christians for that matter, have the capacity to build their own cathedral. And all of us, me, I wouldn't have any problem contributing if my brothers and sisters in the Christianity faith are building a house of God and I feel and I deem it fit to contribute. I can contribute. And I'll give you a classical example. The Central Mosque at, what's the name?
Kaukudi.
Not Kaukudi, the one at...
Police?
No, the one at, if you are going to Agbogulshi, Kaneshi. It was painted by Pastor Mensa Waterbill. Did the chief imam say don't paint it? No. So if you have Christians who have the capacity to build a cathedral and you have people, either Muslims or Christians or Jews, think that they must contribute towards that, what's wrong with that? Now, you have your personal pledge and that becomes a responsibility on the state. It simply doesn't make sense. Now, he said that we need to support this government. The 2.5% at a time when people are struggling. VAT is an indirect tax. And once an indirect tax simply means the one paying the tax doesn't bear the brunt of the tax. It's the final consumer who bears the brunt of the tax because it's easily transferable. Now, you are imposing this tax at a time when the people of this country are struggling. Now, if you want people to believe you and think that you are sincere in your quest for us to participate in sharing the mess you have created. Let's see a demonstration. You don't do this when the president is still globe-trotting. Just yesterday or the day before yesterday, the speaker announced that the president once again is traveling. Travels that can be done by either the deputy minister or ambassador, because the travel of the president comes with a huge cost. When we raise the issue of the president traveling with luxurious, chartered flights, the Minister for Defense told us in Parliament that the president needs to be having his pedicure and manicure and taking his bath in the air. Now, another justification why they felt that the president must not travel with the presidential jet was that it wasn't safe. Yet the president allowed beautiful Rebecca to travel with an unsafe jet to France. If I were Rebecca, I should be worried. Because if you think that you won't travel with that jet because it is not safe, why would you allow me, your spouse, to travel with that jet, a jet that you have...
This is after repairs.
Which repairs?
It was taken...
Which repairs? I'm saying that after the so-called repairs... Hold on. Don't mislead the public. I'm saying that after the so-called repairs, the president consistently refused to travel with it. Oh. And the only reason they gave was that it is not safe. Yet he would allow the First Lady to travel with it if she is not interested in the safety of the First Lady. I am. If you are not, I think that myself and my sister, we are. So the point we are making is that let's see a demonstration. Now, we have given, we prefer solutions. You have secretariat for everything in this government. 1D, 1F secretariat. How difficult is it that the Minister of Trade cannot handle? What's the name?
Ambulance.
Ambulance secretariat. Can't the Minister of Health or Minister of Local Government handle it? You have all manner of secretariat.
Duplication.
To garnish all. They have young boys and young girls at the Flagstaff House. They bought them the most sophisticated laptops. You know their job. They monitor social media, watching journalists and politicians and civil society organizations and people in this country who genuinely criticize this government. They come at you. And these young men and young boys are paid 15,000 Ghana cedis a month. If they think it's not true,
just for doing that?
Oh, yes. If they think it is not true, they should tell us how much they pay them. You see, the hypocrisy...
But is that the job description that they should sit on?
Not aware of.
Yes. I mean, some of these things.
When you have the opportunity to interview my good friend Kujo Ponkuruma, ask him.
Right.
That he should look into your face. He's so religious. And tell you sincerely whether they have boys at the Flagstaff House. They pay for just that job. As we live in this country, the expenditure and the list said about the 30% cut, don't you think it is in our interest to be asking questions? How much have they collected so far from the so-called 30% cut? What are they using that money for? When President Mahama came out and said his ministers, we should give percentage of our salary to that, we showed proof that we're using that money for specific projects, providing cheap compounds for deplorable communities.
Well, and goes back into the consolidation.
Yeah, that is what we're using it for. You remember even when we lost power and they came out, they provided you with evidences what we use the monies for. The people of this country want to know. But last point, there's a famous Ghana proverb that you don't remove thorns whilst in the middle, that pricks you whilst in the middle of thorns. You have a minister for finance who says that he's not a believer of IMF. Now that minister is being asked to lead negotiation for something he doesn't believe in. You have a football team that is disastrous these days. Chelsea.
But people change their minds. Chelsea. People change. I mean, you can change your mind or your stance.
You don't toil with governance of this country. The safety of this country, you don't toil with it. It is not try your luck. Governance is not about try your luck. What they are simply telling us is that, 6 months, try your luck. We are heading towards a ditch. In fact, we are in the ditch. Now, you have a football team.
6 months.
You have
6 weeks.
Even if it is a day. You have a football team. The football team is not doing well because the coach is not good. Now, you have the opportunity to sack the coach. The management says, the supporters say, sack the coach. And the management says, no, we want to do recruitment. Let's allow the coach to finish with the recruitment. After that, we sack him. Does it make sense? You must sack that coach, hire a new coach to do his recruitment. Now, the person who has occasioned the mess, you are saying that allow him to do the recruitment before he goes. It simply doesn't make sense. And I'm told that there are only 2 people who are supporting the Minister for Finance around the president and the unofficial Prime Minister. I'm told anybody around the president is against that minister. Isn't it shocking that you have the entire NDC caucus saying this man must go? You have over half If you take about almost 2/3, because the last time we counted those who said they were not willing to sit, they said they were about 100 and something. And he himself reiterated saying that the majority leaders said that it was the majority's members of parliament's position. So you have the entirety of parliament, and by extension, the entire citizens of this country, saying that this man must go. The president is unwilling. There could only be one reason. The man is sitting on some rot. And they know that if the man leaves, they will be exposed. The man, God, that is the only explanation. The man is sitting on rot. Maybe, perhaps, he's protecting the family booty, because this is the most legendary family and friends and in-laws governments we have ever had in this country.
Right, Mr. Ola, so talking about the portion of government, yesterday there was a story about what Tanzania's president has done. I don't know if any of you has come across it.
About the celebration.
President Samia Suluhu Hassan, she cancelled Independence Day celebration, which was going to cost about $445,000. And instead, she's asked that the monies be used to build dormitories for girls, special needs schools. We know this is not the first time this has happened in Tanzania. Why can't we make bold statements like that in this country? Like, something that is tangible. Okay, so we know, for example, this is how much it will cost us, $445,000. We are taking that amount and we're using it for this. It's measurable. You can follow up. It's properly accounted for. Why can't we have examples like that? He spoke about the cuts in the executive pay. You said it goes back into the consolidated fund. I think that's the problem. We are not seeing clear figures, indications, real evidence of what has been accrued and what is being used for. Why is that?
I really think that we say that money is fungible. Money is fungible. And what we mean when we say money is fungible is that is you put a name on what you want to use that money for. And as I clearly stated here, the government basket has so many things that we are all aware of. Free SHS, we have, school feeding programs. We have all these things which are existing. We already know them. Now, the performance of all of these depends largely on the consolidated fund. So if monies are going back into the consolidated fund, it will be seen in the school feeding programs, it will be seen in electricity being on. And let me just say this, that if not for anything, I sleep well knowing that our electricity is still stable. And I must say that there are some brighter days ahead. And Ghanaians, I would beg, should appreciate that regardless of all these challenges, we have light on. And unlike before, which he knows very well, because he lived through the days of no light.
But sorry to interject.
And I can say that it could have been worse.
Yes.
It could be worse. But we have water running. We have electricity on.
But people don't have money to pay for the water. They don't have money to pay for the electricity. So what's the point of having electricity if times are hard, there's inflation? I mean, the cost of transportation alone is taking a large portion of people's salaries.
They solve Doomso, because you should ask him.
No, I mean, that's a question. That's a debate we've had time without.
But
he knows it's not true.
Solving Doomso and sustaining Doomso are two different things.
Yes, but the question here is, what's the point of having electricity if I can't pay for it? What's the point?
Well, in fact, in the whole world, you can never have all citizenry being able to pay.
But Doc, here at Joy News, we produce what we call the Living Standard series.
Correct.
And to let you know, even business owners, people who ideally will not complain about hard times, are complaining. It's hitting hard. So I'm asking you, you're saying there's electricity. Well, it's good. But what's the point?
It could be worse.
Because I'll be sleeping in darkness anyway if I can't afford it.
And in all honesty, we are changing our lifestyles too. Because let me be frank with you. If it's not going well for the citizenry, it's not going well for the MPs. Because if 10 people were going to come to me for help, it's going to be 100 people now, or 1,000. And we are a mirror image of the ordinary citizen as members of parliament. So we are feeling it. And I will not sit here and argue.
You guys are feeling it.
I will not sit here and argue otherwise. But as it stands, the winds blowing are tough. I've shied away from mentioning Russia, Ukraine. I've shied away from mentioning COVID. because everybody is aware.
No, we are
the
not
narrative
aware.
is out there.
But didn't the problem
aware.
start before then? Weren't experts raising concerns about our books, our borrowing way before COVID and Russia-Ukraine?
Well,
the issue with our debt has been topical even way
it's
before
always
then.
been there. Before I was born, Ghana's debt has always been there.
Yeah, but the rate of borrowing of this government.
Oh, you know, before I was born,
but you also know.
debt.
But you also know that what you've accrued in your time.
We've accrued quite a lot, and I must say that what we have in terms of assets are remarkable.
What are they?
And you know, I always cite the likes of
how many hospitals? You are a doctor, a medical doctor. Mention one hospital you built. One. You're a medical doctor.
I think
just one.
think Kumasi.
Which Kumasi?
As we stand now,
which hospital?
The maternity block.
But that was a private. The mother and the.
My point here is that it is all and listen.
Mention one
I
hospital,
always keep.
But you're a
saying
medical
this.
doctor.
I
One.
always keep saying this.
Ask me to mention what President Muhammad did.
It appears that when you
10.
do expansions at a facility, the NDC does not consider that
which expansion
a project.
Because when you go to Adisadel today, there's additional dormitories, additional classes. When you go to Presec,
that is the responsibility of every government. So we are talking about the money you have borrowed. We are talking about the almost 100 billion you have borrowed.
There's a question. There's a question.
Show. That's the point we are making.
No, you said that to show.
There's a question from one of our viewers to you. And I'm not sure the person watched in the beginning, so let's give the person the benefit. I asked that question. He's saying, why are you crying on television when you've passed the budget?
Oh, but I have just indicated that what we passed was the policy statement. In fact,
so should we see, for once, the minority say we are fighting this and see real proof of it?
No, but of course.
Well, last year they did.
Last year
they did.
We passed, we approved the policy statement, but we had problems with e-levy and others.
But it still went ahead.
No, but I'm saying that what they did.
There was a reduction.
Disregarded even the standard orders and did what they wanted to do. But you see, if we didn't do this, and then you may have problems of teachers not being paid, nurses not being paid, the country will aground. As a responsible political party, we didn't want people to think that we are just opposed to government's budget. It's not everything in the budget that we have problems with. But those we have problems with, even in stating our position, we made it very clear. Mind you, we didn't vote for the approval. It was a voice vote, and the speaker in his wisdom said the years had it. But I just want to make this point. You see, this argument of Ukraine, Russia, I think that you journalists need to be asking questions. We live in a West African sub-region. COVID.
We make bread.
Can I finish?
We make bread.
COVID affected all of us.
We make bread.
I say COVID affected all of us. As a matter of fact,
flour, wheat.
We
make bread.
At least don't do this to the viewing public.
No, we make bread.
I say don't do this to the viewing public. COVID affected all of us. Contrary to the lies that we have been told, and sadly, some of these lies came from the president.
People are
that because the WHO praised Ghana, we manage COVID than our neighbors. That is not true. As a matter of fact, the WHO praised Togo, praised Ivory Coast, praised Burkina, praised Senegal. Now let's look at the numbers. Look, the best way to manage COVID is to prevent lives being lost. If there is any other better way of managing COVID than preventing the number of your citizens dying, I want to know. Now, if you look at the number of people who died in Nigeria, as of October, 3,155 Nigerians died. As of October, 1,456 Ghanaians died as a result of COVID. As of October, 275 Togolese died. Now, if you look at the raw figures, more people died in Nigeria than they died in Ghana.
But in percentage terms?
Calculate the percentage terms. And I even use 230 million. Nigeria is estimated to be about 250. Now, even if you use 230 million, can I finish? If you use 230 million, and you work the percentage of 3,155, you get 0.001%. Now, use 32 million Ghanaians. With 1,456, you get 0.005. So it means that more people died in Ghana than in Nigeria. When you raise the issue, they say, oh, we're doing more testing.
No.
Now, if you are doing more testing,
you can't use just the death.
Please,
when you raise the issue, they say, we are doing more testing. If you are doing more testing, then you should be able to prevent more lives because there is a cure. So it means that clearly we didn't manage it better than the president also in the address of the nation. An argument that is being made also today, and our colleagues, that, the president said that inflation increased in Togo about 15 folds. You remember? the 15 folds. What's the name? Togo, how many folds? We need to, is that Togo 16 folds, Ivory Coast 7 folds, Senegal 11 folds? At what rate? As we see today, none of our neighbors went to the IMF for $3 billion in the name of COVID.
Right.
None of them went to the World Bank for $906 million in the name of COVID. My last point, I challenge multimedia because I have filed a question in Parliament before we went on break. The Minister for Finance refused to come to answer the question. I have filed the same question this time. He's refusing to answer it. My question is simple. How much have we generated as a state as a result of the COVID levy? How much did we spend in the provision of the water and electricity to some section of Ghanaians? Assuming, hold on.
It's public record.
How much is it?
It's public record.
How much is it?
I mean, the figures are out.
Which figure? There is no figure which is out.
No.
I said, which
what
figure?
was spent on paying Ghana Water?
I said, how much have we generated?
In relation to the COVID
how much
levy.
have we generated from the COVID? How much have we generated from the COVID levy?
For this year?
No, since they imposed that particular levy. Wouldn't that be extorting the citizens?
Right.
That if we have generated more than we have spent, will there be any justification in government continuously taking that tax? And mind you, Senegal paid the rents of citizens during COVID. They use COVID, the lives of people, to even rob us the more. That is the reality.
Right. We'll be wrapping up shortly, but Dr. Adumaku Kissi, there's a story on the front page of the Republic Press. Government under pressure. NDC joins unions to reject bond exchange program. I remember when he was announcing the details of the debt exchange program, the finance minister literally courted the support of Ghanaians. He said, look, we are all in this together. A lot of people don't agree with that statement, but he says we are all in this together and we need to come out of the woods together. And so he goes on to cite the examples of Jamaica, Greece, talks about how Greece used legislation to forcefully get people to get onto the debt exchange program. We've seen a pushback. TUC, organized labor. Now, the Ghana Medical Association is saying if you touch our pension funds, we will go on a strike. They have warned government about that. Government appears to be under a lot of pressure, and I've asked this question to the experts, and I'll find out from you as a member of government and an MP on the NPP side. What if you do not get the support that you need to get this debt exchange program successful? What are the options? There are those who think that the IMF in itself is not the only option we could run to, but we did anyway. But what are the options if our debt restructuring doesn't go as planned?
In fact, back to, as I was saying, I think that some of our problems, in fact, goes back to when school institutions were taken from the churches, because the churches were supporting government in terms of education. And even yesterday, I was like, you know what, if we won't even go back to then, can the churches, the Vatican, Presbyterian, Pentecostal, can the headquarters some way come and support our educational system? Because
how were they supporting our education?
I went to St. Peter's, and I know that the Catholics were at least paying for the fathers that were teaching us. I mean, you know, and that was
they were still mission schools.
Yeah, but that's what he's saying. That's what he's saying.
So if he says that they were paying for the
I think we should allow him to end his point so that we get what he's trying to say.
So my key point,
leading point.
No. My key point is that where we are, maybe if I was even president, I'll send an entourage to the Vatican City and say, hey, listen, come support us a little bit. No, I'm just being, or wherever, if it's you know, no. Listen, we're in a situation where any additional support
that defeats the Ghana Beyond Aid path.
Would you be about Ghana Beyond Aid whilst you're dying? No. Let's be realistic. When things have changed, we ought to make changes. I mean, that's a fact. We have to. You're talking about making bold and audacious comments.
So what are the options? My question is, what are the options?
Coming back to the bonds, listen, pension funds, trust, you know, these are almost autonomous institutions that government should not have the upper hand on. And personally, if I manage a fund, I would wish to have zero control in terms of government managing or interfering with how I run my fund. And I'm very particularly worried about that. even though I'm also in government. But one key thing that the finance minister said yesterday, which was quite interesting, is that they're going to make it voluntary. But let me also add that...
Yeah, that's my point. So voluntary means then that if the people do not come, you cannot force them. So I'm asking, what are the options if
that is where, you know, it's going to be very interesting that the alternative solutions have to come to bear. And I really think that as further engagement is going on, the arrangements for the 2020, I think it's 2027, thereabout, and thereabout. Those maturities and the amounts that will be paid off may be looked at again. And I'm hoping that appropriate adjustments will happen before a week from now. And that will be as a result of the engagement with all these fund managers and their stakeholders.
After the announcement, which appears to be something that has been happening quite often.
It's not set in stone. Let me admit that.
Yeah. But why weren't they consulted prior to the announcement?
What we are experiencing...
You have the final word. We are wrapping up in 3 minutes.
What we are experiencing is a symptom of how reckless this government is. First and foremost, have you read the opinion of the Minister for Justice and Attorney General? This is the legal advisor of the president and the government.
Right.
Now, the minister and the ministry is distancing itself entirely from this government debt restructuring program. And as a matter of fact, he stated the unconstitutionality and illegalities of the actions taken by the minister.
If not voluntary.
Hold on, please. He stated. The Minister
for
Justice...
That is important, that caveat is important.
No, it shouldn't even come there. The Minister for Justice is a cabinet minister. And I have had the privilege, opportunity to serve as a deputy minister before. Even in respective ministries, if you want to take decisions or actions that have legal consequences, you need to get in touch of the Minister of Justice and Attorney General. It is not just advising the president, but the ministry advises the entire gamut of the government structures. Now, the minister is also an integral part of cabinet. Did they discuss this at cabinet? If they did, is it stabbing at the back that the Minister of Justice will issue such an opinion? I shudder to think that they never did. Mind you, the statement which was issued by the minister before that charade of media engagement, that statement was issued on his personal letterhead. Now, the statement was to explain things that were captured in the policy statement. The minister read the budget for and on behalf of the president. And that's why when you take the preamble of the budget, I am reading this statement for and on behalf of the president. Now, if you are explaining something you read for and on behalf of the president, how come in issuing a statement to explain further some of those things, you issue them on your own letterhead? Clearly, the center can no longer hold.
There's confusion. And in fact, you get a sense that there's confusion?
No, if you say confusion, it's an understatement, a disaster. Right. Because those agencies, what responsible government, and in fact, transparent and accountable governance expect you to do, you would have engaged them. Because the monies belong to them. The investment that they made, it was their investment. Why would you touch my investment without engaging me? Now, if you look at the timelines that are given, this minister and this government is pushing responsibility to any government that comes after this moribund of government. 2023, no interest. 2025, by that time, 2025, constitutional and legally, President Nanado will not be the president of the Republic of Ghana. Even in the most unlikely event, the MPP wins the elections in 2024, it means that that next government would have to bear the brunt. That is a disaster. So what this minister is doing, to be very honest, he's a danger to the survival of this country. He's a danger to the success of this country. He's a danger to the safety. And to be very honest, you cannot blame him alone. When the chief comes home with weird haircut, what do you expect his subjects to do? They'll come with tapejo. Those of us without hair, they won't even cut our hair because we don't have hair. They will slay us. And that is why people are worried. Anytime we raise legitimate concerns, it says NDC. It is not about NDC. You, the media, you have raised concerns. And I have to, praise, Joy for what you guys have done. You've raised genuine concerns. CDD have raised concerns. Imani, He said just yesterday or the day before, they've all raised concerns.
Right.
This government simply doesn't listen to anybody as long as it doesn't inure to the benefit of the Furiates. That is the reason why we have the
Thank you very much,
in this
Murtala
country.
Mohammed. He's MP for Tamale Central. Ending our conversation this morning, he was here with Dr. Dixon Adumakun Kissi, MP for Anyasoto. We've been talking about the budget, which was passed yesterday. We're hearing from the minority that they have not reneged on their push for some of the taxes to be scrapped or re-looked at. They say they'll continue to push that despite the statement or the policy document being passed. Well, later on in the show, coming up shortly, we are hosting KSM, Kweku Sintem Misa, and he's going to be sharing his thoughts with us on some major happenings in the country. You don't want to miss that. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming, and thank you for doing the watching. We'll be back with more.
Thank you.